Let me talk a little bit, if I can, about the water import fight over the Big Chino Valley water issue. I know that the legislature authorized the transfer of water via pipeline to the Big Chino Aquifer to the Prescott area cities, and that the Salt River Project has sued to protect base water flows to the Verde River, which they claim is water that supplies the valley. I have offered to help with the settlement. One half of the land in the Big Chino is state land, and therefore tied to my efforts to develop a state trust land reform package. And I know that the legislature is also interested in reform. One way to move forward might be an effort to quantify the future water needs of the state. And on the other landowners in the Big Chino, that could establish a baseline water withdrawal level, which, coupled with monitoring to ensure that the levels of withdrawn is sustainable, may be the start of a settlement dialogue to settle that dispute. State trust land reform, of which I began reforms to reach consensus on a state trust land reform package soon after I took office in January. And that effort has grown substantially as stakeholders have been added to the discussion. And although the final drafts of this enabling legislation are challenging, I believe we will have a consensus package for consideration by the legislature within the next month or two. This package is complete reform, not just conversation measures. Although at the present time, in the bill drafts, the conservation of land exceeds the contemplated in the previous reform measures. This has been made possible because of the new concept, wherein the beneficiaries continue to receive grazing revenue and other potential revenue on land that may be conserved as open space, but still leased for non-development uses. Budget cuts, of course, are abound, and many have been made, and I assume that more are going to be made. In regards to the ADWR, it has been working very hard and has done a great job the last few rounds of budget cuts in alerting and energizing communities and the legislature to protect it from the impact of budget cuts proposed for that agency. The effect has been that the agency has suffered no reductions in direct budget or staffing, and instead the cuts came from sweeps of funds that it manages. But that embroiled the state in lawsuits, of which I'm sure you have read about, and drained the water banking fund that was in place for the Indian water rights settlement. The cuts amounted to loans that must be repaid. For this fiscal year, the agency developed a 15% budget reduction plan as instructed by OSPB, and like in previous cut plans, it energized the communities and the legislature to defend the agency. Now, the problem is there are no more sweeps that they can offer. I called together a group of stakeholders, and I have a budget plan for the agency that is a combination of cuts, process reform, restructuring, and fee increases, yet which will keep the agency capable of fulfilling its mission and recognizes the times that we are in and that we are facing. Lots of things are taking place in regards to the state of Arizona. Historic times for Arizona. And we collectively together have to get our arms, I believe, around the issue, understand that the state of Arizona is facing a major crisis. And we're going to have to do the best job that we can to get us pulled together to solve it. I bring you good news in reflection that we are working very hard and diligently to reward those businesses, certainly, that have stuck it out with us here in Arizona, and to encourage new businesses to come to Arizona by trying to address the corporate income tax and the property tax by looking at some tax reductions. If the legislature does not get their arms around this issue, we are going to be in from desperate times. And I hate to be, during the holiday season, the bearer of drastic news. But I'm encouraged that the legislature is working hard. I think that reality is upon them and myself, that it is time now to take off our political hats, whether we be Republican or whether we be Democrat, and solve and have the courage to do what's right for our great state of Arizona. I put forward a 5-point plan early on in March when I first became governor. I still support that 5-point plan, and we came one vote short of getting it passed in the Senate. Now I've called the legislature back into session. I'm hopeful that they realize the dilemma that we're facing, but we cannot sit and we cannot wait. We need to go in, and I'm hopeful that possibly, if not everything that was in the call, something in the call will be resolved. If not, when we go in January, it's just going to be a much bigger bite with some other issues added in to make it even much more difficult to resolve. But we cannot sit and twiddle our thumbs as Arizona burns. But I'm hopeful, and as I look out here and I see so many people that I've known from the past and other people that I have met recently, and certainly some people this morning that their reputations preceded our introduction, that I know with people like you up here and people throughout the whole state of Arizona, that we, us, the leaders, can and will make sure that Arizona prospers again. Thank you all very much for this opportunity.